2020 was an amazing year for solar. Amazing! 2021? Not so much. What happened then? Well, four things. First of all, valuations hit a peak. By the end of January, some solar companies had jumped 10, 20, 40 times. Then, the GME short squeeze happened, and that made a lot of investors panic. There were simply too many rocket emojis flying around. US bond yields jumped because of inflation scares, driven by higher commodity prices and even more stimulus. Finally, renewable companies reported lower than expected earnings and lowered earnings guidance because of the higher commodity prices and some silicon shortages. Now, this was a perfect storm for renewables, and the result was a very painful correction. But I guess the main question on everyone's mind is, does this mean that renewables are a bad investment? My opinion? Hell no. I think the correction actually offers a great buying opportunity if you want to hold the companies for the long term. In the short term, I think that investors will want to see signs of earnings recovery and increased earning guidances, but that depends on how the commodity and freight prices behave, how the silicon and chip shortages unfold. It will definitely get worse before it gets better, but I believe that businesses will find a way to work around it. If you're enjoying the video so far, please subscribe and click the bell icon so that you get all the latest videos. Now, as you can probably tell, I'm feeling very optimistic about solar. In fact, some of my biggest holdings are in solar. Despite the last few months, solar stocks are still very much alive, everyone. The outlook for the industry is looking better than ever, with more and more countries committing and allocating funds to building solar. And I guess the most obvious example is Joe Biden in the US. Also, solar is becoming the cheapest energy source on the market, and in some cases, it already is. Roughly 90% of all new electricity added every year will be renewable energy, with solar being the largest component. So, obviously, the future looks very bright for solar and offers amazing opportunities for companies. Obviously, investors saw that last year, the charts tell the story, but then the end of January came around, and with it that large correction. Now, Warren Buffett famously said, "Be greedy when others are fearful, and fearful when others are greedy." I think right now investors are scared to get into solar. They're more cautious, which is good, but it also means that there are more good deals on the table. Personally, I think that these four companies offer amazing long-term returns. Again, with the current market conditions, it's likely that we won't see a lot of price action in the next quarter, but that also means that we've got more time to build up our positions. Now, my top three personal picks are, first of all, Canadian Solar, First Solar, who just beat their earnings estimate by close to 100%, and then Enphase Energy. And then the honorable mention goes to Jinko Solar Holding. Okay, so why these companies? First of all, the biggest trend in solar right now is storage. Companies that are doing solar plus storage projects will likely do very well, and Canadian Solar and First Solar have precisely these types of projects. The two companies are solar panel manufacturers first, and Canadian Solar has one of the most efficient solar panels on the market. And then First Solar, they have a slightly different product, which is more suited for utility scale projects. So they're not the most efficient per se, but they're the most resistant, and they're able to generate the most electricity over a long period of time with little maintenance. So essentially, the two companies are geared towards different parts of the same market. Canadian Solar has more global projects, whereas First Solar is almost entirely focused on the US and North America, although it does have some other small projects. Both companies have a lot of work in their pipelines, and it's pretty much enough for roughly 2 years going forward. So we can see that their cash flow is kind of secured in that sense. Add to the fact that both companies have an enormous amount of cash in their books, both companies are profitable, both companies are growing. What more do you want? Good price? Well, funny you say that, because they have that too. Both companies have relatively low PE ratios for the industry and are growing at a quick pace. Then, both companies also have similar business models, so they not only develop solar projects, they also operate and maintain some. And the reason behind that is that typically solar projects tend to be very seasonal, and therefore the company's revenue is very seasonal. By operating projects and selling the power instead of simply selling the project, they can generate some constant, sustainable revenue, which gives them a bit of a cushion during slower times. Now, Canadian Solar still has a lot of insiders holding roughly 25% of the company, and the same can be said to an extent for First Solar, although insiders only hold about 10-12% there. And this is very important because it means that institutions have some buy-in, but not complete buy-in, and that allows for a much higher potential price appreciation if the companies continue to do well, which personally I think they will. Jinko Solar is pretty much in the same sphere, same type of company, same type of product, business model, but their balance sheet is a bit worse. And they are a good company, but I think that Canadian Solar and First Solar are better choice in my opinion. And if you start looking at some of the competitors like SunPower, who are expected to post a declining revenue and only have positive earnings because they're selling their own business or getting tax rebate. Or then we take a look at Sunrun, who are just about to break even. Canadian Solar and First Solar are starting to look like even better choices. Enphase Energy is a slightly different beast. Unlike Canadian Solar and First Solar, they don't produce any solar panels. Instead, they produce the tech that goes with it. So their main products are microinverters, which are essentially the tech that takes the DC electricity that the solar module produces and converts it into AC so that the household can actually use it. They also make batteries, they have an app. Essentially, they sell you all the solar tech you need for your house apart from the actual panels, but they partner with manufacturers like SunPower to do that. So they're mainly catering to the residential market and sell products that have a better margin than Canadian Solar and First Solar. They've got a strong balance sheet, loads of cash, enough to cover all of their debts on the spot, which is a very healthy indicator. Now, Enphase is priced a bit highly, but there is good reason for that. As I said, they have solid products, some of the best on the market, and they're trying to capture some of the biggest emerging markets, India and South Africa. Their competition there is minimal really, so they stand a very good chance of establishing themselves as leader in that space. And the long-term prospects of the company are simply phenomenal, which is why I've got them, right? However, in the short term, they may fail to deliver. Their next quarter may be bad, and if that happens, I think it's very likely that their price will drop even further, as currently they're priced for massive growth. Analysts will want to see that growth, and they will punish the stock if that doesn't happen. So overall, Enphase is a bit riskier bet than Canadian Solar and First Solar, but it could pay off. On the other hand, Canadian Solar and First Solar are cheap as they are, but again, analysts may want to see some exciting developments before the companies really take off. I really think though that they have the potential to at least double their price if the market conditions are right. And then we've got a couple of other good companies like Sinui Holdings and SolarEdge, but both of them are not that good of a buying opportunity right now, at least in my opinion. Okay, so I'll probably make a more detailed video analysis on each of the three companies that I mentioned. So if you're interested, hit that subscribe button and the bell icon and make sure that you see the videos as soon as they get published. Also, check out the video on one of my top value picks right now. You may be surprised by the company. Apart from that, this has been my opinion on the solar industry and the best solar stock picks right now. Let me know what you think in the comments below, like and share with your friends. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in